In this video, you learn what suspended chords are and how to use them in your guitar playing. I'll present to you a typical chord progression and then show you how to dress it up using suspended chords. Hi, this is Simon Candy from Acoustic Guitar Lessons Online.net, and in this lesson we look at the suspended 2 and suspended 4 chords. To play these chords, you only have to add or take away a finger from a shape that you will already be familiar with. So they are super easy to play. Suspended chords create movement within a chord progression without there actually being a chord change. It's all about creating tension with the suspension and then releasing that tension by resolving back into the chord you are suspending. Now, that might sound a little difficult or even confusing, but I can assure you it's not. So let me show you. Okay, so suspended chords, what are they? Basically, it's when we replace the third in a chord with another note in the scale from the key. Okay, so common suspended chords, suspended 2 and suspended 4 chords. So let's have a look at a couple of these and then I'm going to give you some examples. So let's say we've got a D chord. That's a very, very common chord to suspend. Okay, we've got a D, standard open D chord. Now if I want to make that a suspended 2 chord, what that is saying is to take the third out of the chord and replace it with the second note in the key. So on top of this chord is my F sharp. That's the third of the D chord, D, E, F sharp. Okay, we're going to take that F sharp, we're going to get rid of it by simply taking the second finger off, and as a result we end up with the open E string, which is the second note in the key. That's the suspended 2. And it's got that suspended sort of sound. It's that kind of, you know, hanging sound. It's waiting to kind of resolve, if you like. So there's our suspended 2 resolving back into the D chord. So it's taking the third out of the chord and replacing it with the second. That's the D sus2, very simple, to D. Now if I want to make that a D suspended 4 chord, then I need to again replace the third with the fourth note in the key, which is D, E, F sharp, G. So that's pretty simple. I just have my D chord and I take my pinky and I put it in front of the F sharp. I play the G, 3rd fret, 1st string. So now the pinky has taken out the third because I'm still going to keep that finger there, but you're not going to hear it because my pinky's in front of it playing the G. And there's that suspended 4 chord sound, having that sort of, again, that tension, that holding there and wanting to resolve back into D. So we've got sus4 and D sus2, back to a D. Very, very common suspensions with the D chord there. Another example here, these are some chords that are going to come up in our examples in a moment. A G chord. So if I want to suspend the G chord, let's have a look here. So let's say I want to suspend the 2, make it a suspended 2 chord. Sorry, let's make it, cancel that. Let's make it a suspended 4 chord. Okay, so what do? Well, we've got our standard G chord, but I'm going to fret it a little differently. I'm going to use my 2nd, 3rd and pinky to play the G. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the second finger. I'm not going to want that B note in the bass. I'm going to take that out. Why don't I want that note? It's a little muddy in the bass sometimes, but more the point, if the B remains in the chord, it's not really a suspended chord. Okay, it would have another name, but we won't go down that road here. We just want to make sure we don't just add the 4th to the chord, but we replace the 3rd of the chord with the 4th. So in this case, I've got my G chord, so I really only need my 3rd and 4th fingers down. Here's the B, open 2nd string. My 1st finger comes in and makes that a C note. That's the 4th in the key, G, A, B, C. So this is G sus4, okay? So that is a nice sounding chord as well, which can resolve into the C chord, into the G chord. Why am I saying C? Another example, a suspended 4 again. These are common suspensions. C, and if I put my pinky there in front of the E, now I've got a C suspended chord. If I add my E on top, it's technically not going to be a suspended 4 now because that's the 3rd. It's still not going to sound bad, but it would be more like a C at 11, I would think there. Okay, but let's not worry about that. Okay, let's just keep it simple. Call this C suspended, maybe avoid the top string if you want. And we can then take the pinky away and resolve it, right? So we've got like the D's suspended, we've got this nice G, suspended 4, and we've got the C. Okay, so notice the movement that's created in the chord as a result of the suspension without there actually being a chord change. Okay, so let's get into some examples using suspended chords. Okay, so the chord progression I'm going to use to demonstrate suspended chords here is going to be a G chord to a D to a C. Just a standard 1-5-4 chord progression in the key G. We'll spend a bar on G, we'll spend a bar on D, and 2 bars on C. Okay, so that'll be our G major chord progression that we're going to apply suspensions to. So first off, I'm going to show you, it's going to basically be the same example, but I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you could play it with the suspension chords. What we're going to do here on the G chord that we begin on, we're going to bring in that suspended 4 chord. Now, a lot of the time when you play suspended chords, you resolve back into the major chord, or the chord that you're suspending, before moving to the next chord. Not necessarily, it's certainly not a rule, but that happens most of the time. So with this G, I'm going to strum on G, then suspend it, and then resolve it before going to the D. And on the D chord, okay, I'm using suspended 2 and 4 there. I'm starting on D, sus 2, sus 4, back into D. So you get nice little, suggestions of melody there. Suggested there with the, so you get that nice movement there, okay? And then on the C, the sus 4 back into the C. And there's 2 bars of that. So I'll play through it, fluently for you without breaking it up, and have a listen to the movement within each chord and how it suspends and then resolves back into the chord before going to the next chord change. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so in this example, it's actually going to be the same chord progression, but we're going to flesh things out a little bit more with some chordal picking, and I might vary a little bit on the suspensions. Okay, so I'll walk you through this first. Okay, so again, it's our G chord to our D to our C chord. Okay, 1 bar on G, 1 bar on D, and 2 bars on C. So on the G, we will. So what I'm doing there is I'm suspending the chord right there, and then I'm resolving it back with the B, okay? And then I add this A note on there for a little bit of an extension to the chord, just to create a little bit of movement in there to add with the suspension. It's not technically a suspended chord there. We could say suspended 2, it's the A note I'm adding, but if I've got that B ringing out, it's more of an add 9 than a suspended 2 chord, but whatever. So there's the suspended, broken up, chordal picking more than strumming, or a little bit of both. Then the D. So there I'm again including the sus 2 and sus 4 chords for the D, and just a little bit of a slightly different approach there with where I play them. But you hear the melody there, or suggested sort of melody there within the chord, or certainly the movement. Then we get to the C. Okay, so that's a little bit of a add 9 chord more there. Basically, when I say add 9 or add 11, if you've got a major chord and you add the 2, but, well, yeah, you add the 2, but the 3rd is still in the chord, it's not suspended, it's an add 9. We don't call it add 2, we refer to the degree of the scale in the 2nd octave. So if you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then you get to D again in the 2nd octave, that's the 9th note. So it's an add 9. Okay, so really there when I play the C, we get the same sort of result. We get nice movement in the chord, but I've still got an E note in there. So it's adding the 9th, not suspending the 2. Okay, It's not a biggie. You don't need to really understand that to do what we're doing here, okay? But that's what we're doing on the first bar of C. Second bar of C, that's suspending the 4 there. So a little bit of embellishment here. The pinky goes on, suspended, resolved back. That's the sus4 chord, okay? So again, the G, D, then the C, and the second bar. So see how that really creates a lot of movement in the chord progression, you know, without making a chord change. Of course, it's changes, it's a chord progression, but when you're on a single chord, we can create that movement. And the good thing is, it doesn't need to be in the song for you to do this. If you're playing a song and you want to just make it more interesting, maybe there's a little instrumental break and you're going to play out on the chord progression or something like that, suspensions are great for that. They really create interest, and you can put them in there as long as you're playing the right chord, and then you suspend that chord, you're good to go. And as I said, most of the time it resolves back into the chord before going to the next chord, but that's not a rule, it's just what happens most of the time. Okay, so let me play through this once more so you can hear it all together. If you liked this video, then you will love this ebook audio I've created for you called Awesome Acoustic Rhythm Techniques that will transform the way you play your guitar. In this ebook, I take you through one of the most common chord progressions in music. What's not so common are the approaches we will apply to it. You will learn how to use embellishments and extensions to decorate the progressions you play, much like a pianist would, resulting in very cool, unique, and sophisticated sounding music. You'll also learn great ways to play rhythm fills that can punctuate the space between your chord changes, much like the rhythm guitar playing of Jimi Hendrix. So click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook audio, Awesome Acoustic Rhythm Techniques that will transform the way you play your guitar. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you would like to see covered in future videos. I read every comment and I would love to hear your suggestions. If you like this video, then hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the all-important notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I've released a new video. This is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net. Thank you as always for watching this video. I appreciate your time and I'll see you in the next video.